He grabbed me by the hair in front of 300 people, all because his mistress spilled wine on herself and blamed me for it. Then a man I barely knew walked through that ballroom, pulled me into his arms, and said 4 words that changed my entire life. My name is Isabelle Hartwell, and this is the night my marriage ended and my real life finally began. If stories about betrayal, quiet strength, and long overdue justice keep you hooked, hit subscribe on the Revenge Tales, because this one does not slow down until the very last second. I married Dominic Sterling 2 years ago, not out of love, but because it was the only way to save my family's company from collapse. Dominic never let me forget it either, telling me on our wedding night that I was nothing more than a tool to punish my family for a corporate scandal years earlier. That night, at the 20th anniversary gala for Sterling Enterprises, I stood alone near the terrace in a sapphire gown I designed myself, while Dominic paraded his mistress, Bianca Vale, on his arm for the entire city to see. Bianca found me anyway, sneering about the jewelry Dominic bought her, and just as I tried to walk away, she staged a dramatic fall, splashing her own wine down her dress and screaming as if I had pushed her. The music stopped instantly. Dominic rushed to her side without even glancing at me, and when Bianca pointed a trembling finger my way, he turned on me with pure venom in his eyes. Before I could say a word, he grabbed a fistful of my hair and dragged me across the marble floor in front of every guest, screaming at me to apologize to the woman he had humiliated me with for months. I bit back my tears, refusing to give him the satisfaction. And just as my knees buckled under his grip, a deep, commanding voice cut through the silence and stopped him cold. Nathaniel Cross walked toward us like he owned the room. And in Los Angeles corporate circles, he practically did, as the billionaire founder of Cross Holdings and Dominic's fiercest business rival. Without a word to the stunned crowd, he peeled Dominic's fingers off my hair one by one, draped his own jacket over my shoulders, and pulled me against his chest like it was the most natural thing in the world. When Dominic demanded to know what he thought he was doing, Nathaniel looked him dead in the eye and said, "Is this how you treat a wife?" Then leaned toward me and said the 4 words I never expected, "You belong to me now." He told Dominic to handle it however he wanted, that if the sky fell he would hold it up for me, then carried me out of that ballroom and into a night that would end everything I thought my life was. I woke up hours later in an unfamiliar penthouse, my knee bandaged, wearing one of his shirts, with Nathaniel sitting quietly beside the bed. He explained he had brought me there after I collapsed from exhaustion, and when I asked why a stranger would go to such lengths for me, he said something that shook me to my core. "We have met before, you just do not remember." I could not place his face no matter how hard I tried, but something about his calm, protective presence made 2 years of loneliness rise to the surface all at once. Lying awake that night, I finally let myself admit the truth I had buried for 2 years, that I could not survive one more day pretending my marriage was anything but a cage. The next morning, I told Nathaniel I was filing for divorce, and instead of trying to talk me out of it or use it to his advantage, he simply said good and offered his help if I ever needed it. I went back to the Sterling mansion myself to collect my things, and when Dominic blocked the door, threatening to destroy my family financially if I left him, I told him plainly that I had already paid that debt in full with 2 years of my life. I threw the divorce papers at his chest and walked out with a single suitcase, leaving him standing there crushing them in his fist, completely unable to process that I was the one walking away. Freedom did not come easy. Every job interview I landed in the jewelry industry mysteriously fell through within days, and I quickly realized Dominic was quietly blacklisting me across the entire city. Sitting alone one night in the loft Nathaniel had lent me, I found my old design sketchbook from college, and something inside me reignited. I started drawing again for the first time in years, and when Nathaniel saw my sketches, he offered to fully fund my own jewelry line, telling me plainly that he believed in my talent, not in destroying Dominic. I signed the partnership without hesitation, and within weeks my own brand was born on Melrose Avenue, backed by his resources and built entirely on my vision. It was during a feverish night after a long work trip that Nathaniel finally told me the truth about us. 5 years earlier, as a college student, I had been falsely accused of plagiarism at an exhibition, and a stranger had stepped in with cold, precise logic and cleared my name before disappearing into the crowd. That stranger had been Nathaniel, and he admitted he had quietly admired me ever since, only to lose his chance when a family emergency sent him overseas, returning years later to find me already married to Dominic. Hearing that truth, and feeling how gently he had cared for me through every crisis since, cracked something open in my chest that I was not ready to name yet. When Dominic realized my brand was thriving, he moved to crush it, quietly pressuring every gemstone supplier on the West Coast to cut me off, stalling my launch indefinitely. Nathaniel solved it in days, opening international supplier contracts Dominic could never touch, turning his sabotage into the reason my brand went global instead of local. At my launch event, Bianca stormed the stage accusing me of stealing her jewelry design. But I calmly pulled up my original dated sketches and a photo of myself wearing that exact design 5 years earlier, destroying her credibility in front of every journalist in the room. Dominic dragged her out in humiliated silence while my brand exploded overnight into a sensation, propelled by the very scandal meant to destroy it. Around that time, Nathaniel uncovered the real story behind the decade-old feud between our families, hiring an investigator who tracked down a former Sterling executive living quietly in Canada. The man confessed on record that a rival firm named Redwood Capital had orchestrated the entire scandal years earlier, forging documents and sabotaging both companies just to watch them destroy each other while Redwood swallowed the market share. Dominic's hatred toward my family, the very foundation of our miserable marriage, had been built on a manufactured lie the entire time, and when Nathaniel showed him the proof, I watched something inside Dominic finally break for good. What followed was a slow, humiliating collapse. Dominic sent flowers, luxury gifts, and public apologies I refused every time, then resorted to following me through the city and showing up outside my building in the rain, until I finally told him to his face that his remorse could never undo what he had done to me. Desperate and unraveling, he crashed his car late one night near my building while driving drunk. And though he survived, I visited him only once more, to tell him clearly that whatever guilt he carried was nothing compared to what he had cost me, and that the only mercy left was for him to disappear from my life completely. Bianca, abandoned and ruined, made one final desperate move at a charity gala, rushing the stage with a bottle of acid meant for my face, only to be tackled by Nathaniel's security before she got close, and hauled away facing decades in prison. With Dominic's empire already crumbling from the scandal, Nathaniel delivered the final blow publicly, handing evidence of Dominic's illegal business tactics to federal regulators during a live press conference. And within days, Sterling Enterprises collapsed into bankruptcy, taking Dominic's fortune and his mansion with it. The last time I saw him gaunt and broken on a sidewalk on Rodeo Drive, he asked if I had ever truly loved him, and I told him the truth, never, before walking back into Nathaniel's arms for good. Nathaniel proposed to me on a cliffside in Santorini with a ring designed from my own 5-year-old sketch. And months later, I married him in front of everyone who mattered, wearing a gown I designed myself, finally the powerful, radiant woman I always had inside me. Somewhere across the city that same night, Dominic sat alone in a dive bar, watching our wedding on the news with a drink shaking in his hand, understanding at last that he had lost me forever the moment he chose cruelty over love. I never looked back because I finally had everything that mattered. A partner who saw my worth from the very beginning, and a life built entirely on my own terms. If this story hit you the way it hit me telling it, make sure you are subscribed to the Revenge Tales, because our next story might just top this one. Thank you for staying with me until the end.